somehow. I guess like that. If I move the table, the whole thing's going to crash. But can you please pass me another small book, which I'll just put here. So there. See. Beautiful. Thank you. That is okay. Whoop. Okay. This evidently is an Indian in Hafatzas Amayonis. That
Power that be.
That this will reach more people than the WhatsApp group. That's the idea. So we have to put up with it. Okay, we're on page Nunvav. Near the bottom. The last thing the Rabbi told us, we were talking about not giving too much credence to the intermediaries. That the Malachim and the Mazolos, those are all intermediaries that help bring chayus, help bring vitality down into this world and vitalize those things that live in this world. But they are like, in the language that's used, not just in this Maimon, in many places, but it's what's used here, they're like the garzon in the hand of the chaytzer, right? The axe in the hand of the wood chopper. Like it says, a yispar garzon al chaytzer. Are you going to praise the axe, or are you going to praise the wood chopper? Well, obviously the wood chopper. He's the one who did, the one who built the building. He's the one who built the building, not the hammer and the saw. Okay.
How much wood could the wood
And
chop,
so,
chop all day?
this is Doc's
Wood
first.
chop, wood chop all day.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Hello.
Sorry.
Back here on YouTube, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with it.
Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, so we the last thing we saw, we got to a period. I'm just looking for the period we got to. Ki ima adam hu abayna. Right, the person is the one who built the building. We got the klal, okay, that period. V'hainu, minei she'ein, okay, yifeh. So the axe is obviously important to build the building. I can't build the building without an axe. I can't build the building without a hammer. I can't build the building without a saw. I need all those things. I can't dig a hole without the John Deere tractor. I understand that. Okay, that all makes sense. But there's still a tractor driver that's digging the hole. There's still someone holding onto the saw that's cutting the wood. And that obviously is the ikar. V'hainu. Tamer says word v'hainu. So we're going to start from v'hainu. V'hainu. Minei she'eina rak shal yadea ba habinyan. It's only that through this thing the building comes. Avalei shehu abeina. But not that the saw or the axe or whatever it happens to be is the builder. She'eina bal bechira klal. What's the single most important thing about the axe that doesn't allow the axe to be the true builder of this building? There's no bechira. There's no choice. Right? The axe doesn't decide where to cut the wood and how big to cut the wood and what angle to cut the wood at so it'll fit in with another piece of wood that was cut at the same angle, etc., etc. Right? The axe doesn't make any of those decisions. The person is making those decisions. The person is the Baal Bechira who's putting the building together and wants the building to look this way and this big and this small and this high and this low and whatever it is about the building. Right? So all of the intermediaries also. The Malach isn't a Baal Bechira to decide whether or not this level of shefa or this level of shefa is going to be drawn down into Ilam Haza and give vitality to any particular creature. Right? Just like the sun doesn't make a decision as to how much light it's going to shine. Right? So even though at a certain level, obviously, the sun is I mean, it's definitely the source of the light that we benefit from in this world. And without the sun, this world wouldn't exactly be very successful. There's no doubt about that. But in no way, shape, or form should I worship the sun, because if I bring that basket of fruit to the sun, it doesn't make any difference, because the sun's not a Baal Bechira, and he's not going to bring more sun on my field and less on yours because I brought him a bigger basket of fruit. Right? Which, of course, is what the Avodah Zarah think. Right? So now you might be a little more sophisticated and think it's not the sun, so it's some metaphysical power. Okay, Peseder. That's, it seems more sophisticated, but it's the same issue. That the intermediary has no bechira. The intermediary is just the pathway through which godly energy descends down into the world. And one of the intermediaries that gives you chayas is called an apple. Right? If you don't eat food, so you don't have chayas. So you're going to worship the food? Well, you thank God for it before you eat it, right? You say, thank you very much. Boy, it's very nice that you made apples, because now I can eat an apple. I was a little hungry and a little run down, and now I ate an apple, and I feel a little better, and I'm ready to go for another hour before lunch or whatever it is. Okay. So that's the way the Abishah created the world. There's no question that the apple gives me energy. I need the apple more than the apple needs me. All right? Carrots might need me, because if there's no one planting the carrot, so the carrot doesn't grow. Okay, fine. So every year I have to put carrot seeds in the ground for my carrots to grow. But apples? I don't know, some apple fell in the ground and rotted in the ground, and the seeds germinated, and an apple tree grew. And the apples grow on the tree. No person necessarily had anything to do with it. And there's enough rain to keep the apple happy. There's enough sun to keep the apple happy, and some big, juicy red. What do you like? Red, green, yellow? What do you want? I'll pick a red one. And some juicy, beautiful red Macintosh BC apple grew. Ooh, it's good when it's crunchy. Right? Okay. And it needs me, doesn't need me. But if I'm walking along and I'm on my last legs and have no energy, and not me, I don't want to be this guy, because he's not eating for 2 days. And he hasn't eaten for 2 days, this guy. And he's mamish, and all of a sudden he comes upon this tree. Wow, this tree saves his life. He's going to worship the tree. The tree's the source of his life. The apple's the source of his life. Well, on some level, yes. Right? Some level, there's no question that the apple saved his life, because if that apple weren't there, then who knows what would have happened to him. But in no way, shape, or form is the apple the one who saved his life. The Abishter saved his life. It just happened to be. The Abishter did it through an apple. And interesting enough, what's that apple? What's imbued in that apple that's really giving you the koyach that you need? The elokus that's imbued in that apple. What's the source of that apple? Shem Havaya. Same way the source of you is Shem Havaya. So the Shem Havaya that's sourced in that apple is what you need to be alive. There's 2 levels in that apple. There's another level of unseen reality in that apple that's really the part of the apple that's helping you. And that's the vitamins in the apple. We all know that. That's not a problem. Right? Now, those you can figure out in a laboratory. Find that in a lab. Okay, but when you're holding the apple, give the apple to some kid who hasn't learned much about anything. So the apple is an apple. He doesn't know what vitamins are in the apple. He doesn't know that the nutrients in the apple are what's giving him his energy, not the apple itself. It's the stuff hidden in the apple. Okay, but just goes one step further. It's not the physical stuff hidden in the apple. It's the metaphysical, godly stuff hidden in the apple that's really giving you energy. And the physical stuff that's in the apple, the vitamins and the minerals and whatever else is in the apple, that's part of that which the Abishter created in order to be an intermediary for you to have chayus, for you to have vitality. And that's why when you take an apple, you say it doesn't, you don't thank the tree for the apple. You thank Havaya Elokeinu for the apple. Melech ha'olam. It comes from Havaya, comes into Elokim. And then Borei Priya Eitz. He created an Eitz. And on this Eitz, Baruch Hashem, there's this delicious Macintosh apple. BC apple, not Washington State apple. This is a BC apple. This apple says A after your bracha. The Washington State apple goes, huh, after your bracha. It's a different, huh, or yip. In America, there's yippers. In Canada, it's A. In America, it's yip. Yippers. Yip. Yes, sirree. A there, Bill. Yeah. Yip. Okay. So you can either, you can decide where you're from. C-A, N-A, D-A. Canada. A. None of you have, if you've never been there and experienced the real Canadian, you don't understand how A is extremely important part of the conversation. It doesn't mean anything, but most of the other part of the sentence also doesn't mean an awful lot, so it gets lost in translation. Okay. So the tractor and the axe, they didn't build the house. And therefore it's also understood relative to the metaphysical intermediaries. Right? The mutzoim that are supernal. They are only like the axe in the hand of the wood chopper. Meaning these are the means by which HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows godly light to descend down into the world and give you and I vitality. Shal Yedeyim Over Hashpa, this bounty comes through them. It doesn't come from them themselves. And they don't make choices. The Eibishter is the one who's truly the source of all of this bounty. That he's causing this to come down as a function of his ratzon. And is drawn down through these mimutzoim. But ultimately, what's the true source of it all? It's all the Eibishter. And whatever's coming down only comes down as a result of his ratzon. Now, this statement can also be made about the highest levels of godly reality, even the highest levels of godly light, not created reality, but godly reality. Those levels of reality also only exist because the Eibishter wants them to. Well, we talked about this earlier. The only thing in all of reality is what's called mechuyev hametzias. Mechuyev from the lashon chayav, must be, it's obligated, metzias, existence. The only necessary existence, that which is absolutely necessary to exist, and no other existence can be without it, is the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Atzmusa Yizbarach, the Eibishter himself. Godly light, every level of godly light exists as a function of the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if the Eibishter doesn't want that level of godly light to exist, so it won't. If the Eibishter does want it to exist, so it will. Might it serve a function? Might it not serve a function? Well, that's up to the Eibishter. Whether he wants this level of light to have a particular function in the whole process of bringing light from its state of infinite transcendence down into some sort of finite immanence where it can be revealed down here. Right? But every single level of that journey is only Miratzon Yisbarach. That level of that word that the Rabbi just used, Ratzon, that applies to everything outside of Atzmos. Everything. Here, the Rebbe is not talking about higher levels of godly reality. Right now, the Rebbe is just talking about loftier levels of created reality that are the immediate source of the vitality that descends down to us. Malachim. Okay, but a malach created you. Don't be ridiculous. The mazel that's standing on top of the blade of grass, knocking it, grow. That's the source of the existence of the blade of grass. The Eibishter created the blade of grass, right? But what? That's the last line of, I won't say last line of defense, it's the last line of offense, right? That's allowing that blade of grass to exist and grow. It's all a function of the Ratzon. And it's all drawn down through these intermediaries. They're the road, they're the highway. But there's something traveling on that highway, so to speak. In order that they should come into being, physical reality. And it should be drawn down to that physical reality, shefa or v'chayus gashmi, bounty and physical vitality, lefi erkam, in accordance with the reality, the value of that particular thing. Right? So obviously a higher level meaning the malach also has its source, right? In a higher level, right? So the higher level of reality is the true source of the malach? No. It's the immediate source of the malach. Right? Your parents created you? They didn't create you. God created you. Your parents are the means by which that comes into a state of revelation. Because it's not yesh mi'ayin from your parents, it's yesh mi'yesh. What gives people and animals have the same kaya? What gives people and animals this incredible power of haylada, giving birth? The Eibishter gives this incredible power to. It's amazing. It's absolutely astounding thing. Right? Okay. But it's not yesh mi'ayin, it's yesh mi'yesh. So, is there some way in which I'm sourced in my parents? Absolutely, there's no question. Might look like them. I mean, some people do, some people don't, but a lot of people do. Right? They mamish look like one of their parents, or sort of a shiluv of both. Okay, fine. But it's not that their parents are mamish their source. That's not their ultimate source. It's all sorts of levels of source. The most immediate source is parents, obviously. But there's another level of source even in Gashmias, which has very, very powerful ruchniistic repercussions, and that's the fact that your source is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rochel, Leah. Okay, that's pretty powerful. That goes back a long way. So I might not look like them. I don't know what they looked like. They were probably shorter than us. They say. Though Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't. Moshe Rabbeinu was 17 feet tall. Moshe Rabbeinu was ridiculously tall. Right? Very, 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 very tall. Right? But okay. So probably they were shorter, because most people were short. If you look at the houses they lived in, so they seem to be shorter. Fine. So that's a level of source also. Right, and that's on a metaphysical level. The source of our neshama is mamish sourced in Avram, but the source isn't really in Avram, it's really in the Eibishter, right? The Eibishter gave Avram that koyach, and Avram has that koyach. And so every Yid is a ben Avram. Gets that neshama ultimately from Avram Avinu. As is written in other places, as opposed to Makamach, it's not one place, many places. That the Eibishter should bless you in all that you do. That a person has to involve himself in physical activity, like going to work, running a business. Like running a business, or whatever else he does. Well, why does he have to do that? He needs Kashmirs. Why doesn't it just grow on trees, so to speak? That's not the way it works. Evidently, that is the way it'll work, but not now. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't just grow on trees. You have to do things in order to what? The Rabbi's going to explain. It will be mamshich the elokus down into Elam Hazeh. You have to do certain physical activity to bring the elokus into physicality. Lasik basiya gashmias, basic masamatan chulei. Mipnei shetzarich lekabel chayusei mior v'chayus gashmi. Because down here in Elam Hazeh, what's the immediate source of our vitality? Gashmias. I can't sit and learn Torah and get vitality from it. I'll get temporary vitality from it, so that if I'm very, very involved in the learning that I'm doing, I won't feel hungry and won't feel tired. But at some point, I'm going to feel hungrier and more tired because I didn't eat and I didn't sleep. Right now, I'm very focused on what I'm doing, and so I might not feel the hunger and I might not feel the fatigue. But at some point, it's going to catch up with me because I need physical sleep, I need physical food in order to give me vitality. Metaphysical food won't do it. There are tzaddikim who need much less food and not much less sleep than you and I, because they're more connected to their source, and so they don't need it to be drawn down as much as you and I do. Right? That Sanzer Rebbe used to sleep 2 hours, and our Rebbe also after we're getting close to Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So Rosh Chodesh Kislev, of course, is the celebration of the Rebbe's recovery from the heart attack from Shmini Atzeres and Tavshin Lamed Ches in 1976, 77. So Rosh Chodesh Kislev is when the Rebbe emerged from 770 and went home. So we're getting close to that. Why did I start talking about that?
Not sleep.
Right, thank you. Sleep. Thank you very much. Sleep. So, evidently the doctors, after the heart attack, asked the Rebbe to make sure that he slept 2 hours a night. Okay, fine. So evidently the Rebbe did. The Rebbe was both an easy and very difficult patient. On one hand, the Rebbe listened to what the doctors said. On the other, most things. On the other hand, the Rebbe asked a lot of questions to the doctors and wouldn't always accept their advice. He might say, "Well, can't it be done this way, etc., etc." 2 or 3 days after a number of massive heart attacks, so the Rebbe, they set up basically an ICU in the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe was there, and the Rebbe asked for the mail. So the doctor said, "The Rebbe can't read the mail, we can't work." So the Rebbe said, "Well, I have to read the mail." So Rabbi Klein said that on a quiet day there were 400 pieces of mail. That was a quiet day. That wasn't a special day. So there'd be 400 pieces of mail. So the Rebbe said to the doctors, "Wait, so what do you want me to do? You want me to not read mail for 2 weeks? If I don't read mail for 2 weeks, that means I'm going to have to read a few thousand pieces of mail. That'll make me sick. Who can read so much mail? I can't possibly. That'll be very hard for me to do that. I won't be able to do that. So if I read just a little every day, so that'll be much easier for me in the long run, won't it?" So I don't know what happened with the mail. That was the Rebbe's taina. Famous Yotes Kislev for breaking, so the doctors didn't want to let the Rebbe for break. This all happened on Shmini Atzeres. The Rebbe went home on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, but the Rebbe, the Rebbe's still a recovering heart patient. So the doctors didn't want the Rebbe to Farbrengen, and said it was just too stressful to Farbrengen for 5-6 hours through the night on Yotes Kislev. So the Rebbe argued with the doctors, and it was Dr. Weiss, he's the one that tells the story, so ultimately Dr. Weiss said the Rebbe's physical health is our responsibility and we can't let the Rebbe Farbrengen. The Rebbe said the spiritual health of the Chassidim is my responsibility and I'm Farbrengen. So they made a pshara, a compromise. This might be the only compromise the Lubavitcher Rebbe ever made in his whole life, I'm not sure. But they made a compromise, and the compromise was that they would hook the Rebbe up to a portable ECG, and they would monitor in the office, and the Rebbe would go Farbrengen, and if everything was okay, they'd let the Rebbe Farbrengen, and if there were anything, if things started to look serious, so they would tell the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would have to stop. So they said, "Okay, fine." So the Rebbe went to Farbrengen, and the famous story, Dr. Weiss tells the story, that the Rebbe's heartbeat was its irregular heartbeat for the whole Farbrengen. Right? Meaning it was irregular because the Rebbe was a heart patient, but it was regularly irregular. That's it. Was it had been for the last few days, and it was going to be that way for a while. So they weren't alarmed at all at that because the Rebbe was able to function. And all of a sudden, the heartbeat got perfect. Dr. Weiss didn't understand what was going on, so he went out of the office to look, and the Rebbe was saying a maimer. And the Rebbe said the maimer, the heartbeat was perfect. And then when the Rebbe finished the maimer, it went back to its irregular heartbeat. That's what happened. Yotes Kislev. But they asked the Rebbe to sleep for 2 hours. So you and I need a little more than 2 hours. Right? 2 hours won't do it. Right? Chaim of Tzanz used to sleep 2 hours a night, and the Chassidim once asked him, how can he only sleep 2 hours a night? He said, "Some people eat fast, I sleep fast." Right now, if you think about that, what does that mean? What's sleep? Sleep is your neshama, is what you say in Kriya Shema Shalomit, and what you say in brachas in the morning, right? Your neshama is going back up to its source. There's still obviously a residue of your neshama in your bodies because you're still alive when you sleep, but you're not as alive, and you're less alive, so to speak, than when you're walking around conscious, right? So certain filters aren't there. That's why dreams are as bizarre as dreams can be, because the conscious filters aren't there filtering reality to make it seem in line with the way reality seems to work. Reality doesn't have to work that way in dreams, right? All sorts of different things can be combined together in dreams that don't belong together in normal reality. So you could be sitting and drinking coffee in a cafe in Paris with Rabbi Viflin. Well, that's just not part of normal everyday reality, okay? And especially now, because he's saying, he's sitting shiva in his house, right? So he can't be in Paris. Well, okay, but that doesn't matter in a dream state. That's all irrelevant. Okay, so strange things can exist, but you're still obviously alive, right? You're there. So your neshama goes back up to its source and is rejuvenated up there, and then comes back down, hopefully with more energy. I mean, that's the idea, right? So now, if that's what happens with sleep, and that is what happens with sleep, so then it makes sense that a tzaddik should be able to accomplish that faster than us, because he's aware of how neshamas work, and he should be able to get his neshama up there, go to the fast pump, and fill it up fast, and get it back in the goof and get on with life, right? I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? Food, well, evidently most tzaddikim don't eat as much as other people, right? Evidently, they're able to somehow get vitality from a more direct source also. They have to eat. Definitely have to eat. But they're not as meshuabad to eating as the rest of us. During the trial period of the books, so the Rebbe went to the oil every single day during the trial period. Well, the Rebbe doesn't eat when he goes to the oil. Right? So the Rebbe would come back and daven mincha and marav, and only after that eat. Right? So, to this day in 770, on days where it was a custom for the Rebbe to go to the oil, so still the Rebbe's minyan in 770 is the marav minyan is earlier. Right? Or for instance, Bahab. Bahab is fasting after holidays, so there's fast days, base, hay base, right? So the Rebbe used to fast Bahab. So if you're around 770 when it's Bahab, it was just there, right? So Bahab, it happens to be a Thursday night or a Sunday, so I was there for the Thursday night of Bahab. So the Rebbe's minyan for Marav, the regular, the big minyan for Marav, which is still according to the clock that was, the Rebbe's minyanim, 10 o'clock, 3:15, and Marav, 6:45, or 9 o'clock, or whenever it would be, depends summer, winter. So Marav was about 20 minutes earlier. Why? Because in the old days, so the Rebbe would be fasting. So they'd make Marav earlier, so the Rebbe wouldn't have to fast as long, right? So they still make Marav earlier on Bahab, right? And make it as early as it can be, right? So fasting was something. Now, Rabbi, they didn't tell us to fast, right? But fasting wasn't a problem. After the heart attack, so the Rebbe had a major heart attack. They wanted to give the Rebbe water in 770. They wanted to give orange juice, which is evidently very good for heart patients. The Rebbe said, I make kiddush. I'm not in the sukkah. Which means it says, eat in the sukkah in America. Chutzlaretz, right? So Rebbe wouldn't take any water, wouldn't take any orange juice, went up to the room, and only quite later, when the Rebbetzin came, so then the Rebbetzin went out to the sukkah. And the Rebbe made kiddush. First they brought the Rebbe grape juice. So the Rebbe said, he didn't say this is grape juice. The Rebbe said, this is nit yain, this is juice. He didn't say grape juice, he said juice. This is juice. So they said, okay, so they brought the Rebbe wine. They didn't want to give the Rebbe wine. Right, okay, but the Rebbe's not going to make kiddush on grape juice. So they brought out wine. The Rebbe made kiddush and had some mezainis with the Rebbetzin, and evidently drank some orange juice. A lot. the story is a lot, so that might mean who knows what. The Rebbe a lot was never so much, but whatever. Okay. So eating and drinking, those are things that you and I have to do because our chayas comes through the Gashmias. It's an intermediary that the Eibishter creates to give you and I chayas. So yes, there will be people who are a little more connected to a higher source in an obvious way, so then they'll need a little less than that. Okay, that's what we were just bringing about. That makes sense. Then there'll be those people who are always hungry, right? So they're just so disconnected. If a person were able to live, 4 lines up, mi'or ruchni, from spiritual light, from intellectual pleasure. Imagine you're a little hungry, so you open up a sikha and you learn the sikha, and then you're not hungry anymore. Or you're tired, you open up a sikha, you learn a couple of sifim in Shulchan Aruch, and you're not tired anymore. Why? You got spiritual pleasure from learning Torah. I mean, that theoretically could happen, but that's not the way it works. Right? Why not? We're physical beings. We need physical vitality. So the physicality is also a vehicle that the Eibishter uses, gives us to use to give ourselves chayas. Dugmas Kabbalah's chayas and neshamas began Eden. How does a neshama get its chayas, its vitality in Gan Eden? From eating physical food? Obviously not. Where do they get their chayas? Shemekablim chayusam, they receive their vitality. Miyasoga belokus, from their comprehension of elokus. That's what gives them energy. Don't imagine they sleep. What you do all day? Ukemaimer, like it says, Yeshvim v'nenim miziv Shechina. They sit and they derive benefit from the ziv Shechina, from the radiance of the divine presence. So now that nehanim. So on one hand, that nehanim means they get pleasure from it. Okay, but what the word nehanin also means they derive benefit from it. Brachas before eating, what are they called? Birchas hanehanin. The brachas we make on those things that we derive benefit from. It's called Birchas hanehanin. Some of the most difficult halachas in Torah. How to make brachas and etc. etc. Okay. Ukemay losid lave. What's going to happen? Shamar Razal Eilam Haba. Now this doesn't seem to be Gan Eden, right? There's Eilam Haba, which means the second kuf of Yemesa Mashiach. So according to some opinions, Ein Bayachilu Shasiyah, they won't be eating and drinking. Ella, what? Sadikim Yeshvin Vatroseim Bereshem, their crowns will be on their head. V'nenim Ziv Shechina. Now, here it says Ziv Shechina, which is really interesting because in Eilam Haba we understand there's going to be even greater than Ziv, but okay, that's not our issue right now. Hare, bedugmas Kabbalah Sachayas Achshav Miachilu Shasiyah Gashmias. Just like you and I receive vitality from eating and drinking in Gashmias, if you're feeling a little run down and you have some healthy snack, you feel better afterwards. You have more energy, right? So it's a good idea in the morning, in the middle of morning Seder, go eat an apple or go, get a drink or something. Fine. Most people think, I'm tired, I'll just drink coffee. You have to drink coffee. You just need a little gashmias in you to give you a little more energy, right? Coffee's probably not the best idea 5 times a day. It's just not so healthy. They say it is very healthy once or twice. That's what they say, right? Some people, drink this other drink that has coffee in it. There's a little milk and sugar, and they put a little coffee in it. But we don't want to go there. We're live on YouTube. I don't know whether I want to start.
You don't want to get canceled.
You don't know how many. I could get canceled. There you go. I'll get canceled my first time in the big time, and I might get canceled. There were actually 2 people watching at one point, and now they're not there. So I guess there's something I said must have.
At least they didn't hear you talk about the mugs.
Right. What's this guy? I'm going to go watch the football highlights. Hi, but Dugmas Kabbalah Zechayas Achshav Miachilu Shasiyah Gashmis Kain Yeh Losid. So too it'll be in the future. Kabbalah Zechayas Mimasha Yena Miziv Shechina. At some point, what's going to happen? We'll derive benefit from Elokus, which is the tzaddikim are pretty much there in Eilam Hazah. They have to eat and they have to sleep, but it's minimal. Right? They're still in a goof, so they have to pay heed to the goof. Right? Gedalia Lieberman. I just see it now. I'm sorry. There's a big smile from Gedalia Lieberman at the bottom of the page. Remember Gedalia?
Of course. I went
Sweetheart.
to this brother in Morristown also.
Such a sweetheart. I just said now this book is hiding it. I can't do this. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm supposed to pretend this thing's not here. But there's a little smile from Gedalia down there. Hi, Gedalia. We all love you. Okay. As meaning if we got our vitality directly from, this is at the beginning of the before the parentheses, right? That if we got our highest directly from tainug sichli, from some sort of intellectual pleasure, as lo yatzarech lasek basic v'asiyah begashmis, right? We wouldn't have to involve ourselves in making a living, etc. You'd have to just be able to afford a book, right? Or you'd go to the library. Right, you go to the shul and you go into the library in the shul and you open up a book and then you sit there a little tired. Okay, I'll go to shul. I'll learn a little and I'll come back. I'll have more energy. It's absolutely necessary lekabel chayusa to receive his vitality b'chayus gashmi, in physical vitality. Therefore, what has to happen? Tzarich lavar hashpa yedei asiyah be'esek gashmi. Right, so therefore this hashpah, the godly hashpah, how do you bring it down? You go to work. You go to work and you involve yourself in physical activity, which draws the godly energy down into physicality, and you usually, either you make money in the business you're running or you're paid a salary, and you use that to buy those things that you need in Gashmias to continue your life in Eilam Hazeh. That it will become physicalized and materialized, the hashpah lefi erkai, in accordance with the reality of the person that needs it. Amnam, however, etzem hashpah, the essential hashpah, where is it from? It's from the Eibishter. Rak she'everes hashpah yedei memutzoyim de malachim hamazalis, but it travels through the intermediaries of first malachim, then mazalis, and furthermore, in Eilam Hazeh, v'yidei ha'esek, through one's involvement, b'devarim gashmim, in physical things, u'mislaveshes hashefa, and now this godly energy is clothed in lechem gashmi, in a physical piece of bread. And you eat the physical piece of bread, and the physical piece of bread gives you vitality. What's in that piece of bread? Shem Havaya. What's giving the bread existence? Shem Havaya. Then how do you eat Shem Havaya? You eat a piece of bread. I can't get Shem Havaya by sitting and learning Torah. I can connect to it, but I'm not going to internalize it so that I don't need to eat or need to sleep. Again, there are people who are closer to that. Most of us aren't there. Why? Well, I take Gashmias pretty seriously. So if I take Gashmias pretty seriously, then I need Gashmias more. Well, Shem Tov once went to raise money for poor families, and he did that fairly often, evidently. And he went up to some Gvir's house, and my picture of it is that there was like a walkway from the street up to the house, and then maybe even stairs up to the door, not stairs up to the door. I don't know. You have to picture, what did a house look like 300 years ago, whatever. But it was a house. It was a serious house. This guy was a Gvir. He knocked on the door, and he started walking away. The Gvir answered the door, saw someone walking away. Whether he knew it was the Baal Shem Tov or not, I'm not sure. I don't know whether he did or not. That detail of the story I was never privy to. He might have known it was the Baal Shem Tov, might not have. But anyway, he sees someone walking away, and he says, "Excuse me, you knocked on my door." He said, "Yes." "Can I help you?" "Yes." So the Baal Shem Tov approached him again. He said, "I'm collecting money for families, etc., etc." "Okay." He gave him a very generous donation. He said, "But can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." "Why did you walk away?" It's not a very good way to raise money, meaning theoretically you should have stayed at the door and waited for me, right? You were walking away, and if I hadn't come right away, you wouldn't be here. So the Baal Shem Tov said to him, and if you're the Baal Shem Tov, this will work. Right? Baal Shem Tov said, I had to do something in Gashmias to bring the Shefa from Ruchnias into Gashmias. I knocked on the door. That was enough. If you're the Baal Shem Tov, that's all you have to do. You and I, you're going to have a speech prepared. Why? Because we give Gashmias a lot of credit. So the Eibushter is real. You give Gashmias a lot of credit, so you better do this. LP Gashmias, right? You have to do it LP Teva and how it works, right? But what if Gashmias, you see Gashmias the way the Baal Shem Tov sees Gashmias is simply the vehicle to express Elokus. So then you're probably not going to have to involve yourself too much in the Gashmias in order to bring it down into in the Gashmias, to bring the Ruchnius into the Gashmias. So we knocked on the door. Most fundraisers I know do a little more work than simply knocking on the door. Mm. Where's the Ashpa coming from? The Eibushter. If you're the Baal Shem Tov, to get the Eibushter to send it down, you just knock on the door. Some of us has to do a lot. So it comes down through these mimutzayim, and it comes down through the involvement in making a living, and it's clothed in a piece of bread. And from this, the person receives his vitality. It's amazing. That's how it works. Ma'im Rabbi. Aval kol zeh hu ha'or eloki shemislavish v'nimshach lo al yedei mutzamim ha'el. All of this is the Or Eloki that's coming down and drawn down through these intermediaries. Vehine, kashir deya, when a person knows this, v'yuklatu etzle heitev devarim, and these things are absorbed. Yuklatu, they're absorbed well. These things in this person's conscious reality. Mamela, therefore, consequently, what? I mean, a person truly understands this, not just intellectually, but he's absorbed this into the fabric of his being, and he relates to reality in Eilam Hazeh this way. Mamela lo yaniach datei b'machshav. He's not going to put his thought, his understanding in his thought, his intellect in his thought, binyanei Eilam, in matters of the world. V'lo yitared b'zeh klal. He's not going to be bothered by this at all. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to make a living. He does have to figure out how to make a living. And obviously making that living is going to involve a certain amount of intellectual activity. I mean, no matter what you do, you have to involve some intellect in it. The plumber involves intellect. The electrician involves intellect. Certainly the doctor, the lawyer, the businessman, the accountant, they're also going to be involving a lot of intellect in what. But okay, that's true. The intellect necessary to make this thing happen. But their essential intellect, where will that be? That'll be in the sugya they're learning in their daily Gemara shir. That'll be in the mimer they're learning before davening in the morning. That'll be in the sikha they learn at night before they go to sleep. It'll be whatever it is. That's where their head will be. Right? There's other things happening. There's definitely other things happening. Have to happen to make a living. If you don't make a living, also you just. Today I just was thinking of it because as I came out of the mikveh, so I have a neighbor, a very special guy. He's mid-60s. Been sitting in kollel his whole life. So on one hand, amazing. He's been sitting and learning Torah every day. And he's a serious guy. He's not sitting there and talking. He's sitting there and learning. He's not smoking cigarettes and talking politics. He's mamish sits and learns. Saying this in public, I might get in trouble. I might get hit by lightning. I'm not sure. But someone who never had to work a day in his life, you see, they're different. It's not. On one hand, they're very fortunate. His wife works very hard. But someone who never worked a day, you see, they never worked a day in their life. You see, they're missing a certain sophistication that you get by trying to dance the dance of making a living and being an erlich yid at the same time, as opposed to, okay, I'm sitting learning all day. Now it's very fortunate, it's an incredible bracha to be able to sit and learn all day, there's no question. The person sitting and learning, this person sitting and working should really want to sit and learn all day. But he can't. So he does what he has to do. And it adds ultimately to his appreciation of Elokus as opposed to taking away from it. It's the nisayon that makes him appreciate things at a deeper level, as we learned earlier in the Maimer. He's not going to get bothered by it. He's going to do his work. But he's not going to be bothered by it. He's not going to be checking his bank balance every 20 minutes just to make sure that it's okay. Ki im kol dato machshavta, what's his thought really going to be about? Yeh b'havai yizbarach b'tefillah v'torah. He's going to be thinking about davening, thinking about learning. Yeah, he has to go to work. And when he's talking to a customer, he's going to have to be thinking about the customer, and he's have to remember, what is this customer like, and what does he buy, and what doesn't he buy, and what can I, we've been thinking, Dafka, that maybe we should expand this account into something else. Okay, fine, he's got to think about all that. But it's not like thinking about that makes him forget what page he's on in his Gemara. For iske in yonei ha'olam, and involvement in matters of the world, lo yibalbulu, it's not going to confuse him. But that means he is involved in the world. It's not going to confuse him. V'lo yimnu, I say, and it's not going to stop him mi'avedas Hashem, from serving the Eibishter. Was the Frierdiker Rebbe saying Basi Lagani? Right? That generally, how does the world work? When people work and when people eat and when people sleep, that's set in stone. When do people learn Torah? When they have some time. It should be the other way around. What should everybody know? Not that this is why you're doing it so everybody will know, but meaning you're doing it in such a way that by just mamela, everybody knows. 8 to 9, you can't call him on his phone is off, he's learning. 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., there's no one to talk to. All right? When does he eat dinner? Whenever, I mean, if you have kids, you probably have a fairly regular schedule in eating dinner because the kids have to get to bed and have a regular schedule. Okay, fine. But when does he eat dinner? You can't set your clock to that. But you can set your clock to when he sits and learns with his chavrusim. That you can set your clock to. So that's a yid who understands what Eilam Haz is about. Right? When does he get up in the morning? He gets up as early as he can. Right? Like I said, he gets up early in order to be able to do what are those things that he has to do before he has to go to work, right? When does he has to be at work? Well, if he runs the business, so he can get there later. If someone else runs the business, so whenever the boss says to be there, you have to be there. So if the boss says to be there at 9, so then you make the cheshbon, that means I have to leave my house at 8:15 to get there at 9. Okay, that means I should be back from shul at about 7:45 to be able to, be in the house in a relaxed way for half an hour and say hello to the kids and help them get out to school and eat something, etc., etc. Okay, so that means I have to finish davening at 7:45. That means I should probably be in a minyan that says 7:45, 7 o'clock minyan. Okay, and he's working backwards. That means I get out of the mikveh 10, 15 minutes or half an hour before the minyan. Okay, and then I get to the minyan and learn Chassidus for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm ready to go. Okay, so he goes backwards to when the alarm clock rings. All right. So when's his alarm clock, that guy? I don't know, it's early. I don't want to even think about it. It's making me tired. All right. Okay, but it's pretty early, that guy. In order to get to work at 9 o'clock, he's up at 5:30. He's got a lot to do. Right? He's got to go to the mikveh. He's got to learn some chassidus. He's got to daven like a man. So he goes home. It might be before he even goes to shul. He has to make 3 or 4 sandwiches for the kids before he leaves the house, right? Because that's his job. In our family, so my job was making sandwiches. So we figured out at the end of the road that over the years I made something around 25,000 sandwiches. Just like, you see, I only made a few a day, right? I made 25,000. There were 10 kids. Let's say they go to school 250 days a year. It's probably a little more, a little bit. Let's just say 250 days a year. Right? They go to school. Right, so that each kid is 250, so that's times 10 is 2,500, and you're doing that for each kid for about 10 years. You're not doing it when they're 15 years old, but from there, when they're 3, they're going to Gan, and then whatever, so 3, 4, 5, up until about 12, 13. The girls also, even though the boys are out of the house at 13, they're probably in yeshiva, okay, 13, 14, fine. The girls are still in the house, they're going to high school, but they live by, okay, but you're not making their sandwiches when they're 13, they're making their own. So let's say every kid 10 years. So every kid 10 years, all right, 250 days a year, every kid is about 2,500 sandwiches. Blian Har, there were 10 of them, so that's 25,000 sandwiches. Okay, it's also part of life. And they all have a different, this one wants this, and this one wants this, and this one wants this. All right. to line up the pieces of bread and all. The Zalmanovs in Sfas, so they have 19 children, and I remember seeing in their kitchen wall there was a big. It's only in their house actually twice. In the kitchen wall there was a big chart, the jobs of all the kids, what all the older kids had to do, because 2 people can't possibly do everything necessary for 19 kids. She was the principal of the high school. She was just home all day. She was the principal of the high school. He had a job in the security services. Right? I think he worked in jails. He's a chaplain in jails. I don't remember. Right? So they had it all figured out. Right? It's not like the kids don't get their sustenance by you saying, okay kids, let's all gather around, you say over Sikha the Rabbi, and the kids aren't hungry anymore, and now they have all sorts of energy and they're ready to go. No, you have to make them sandwiches. To make them say with a fruit or a this or a that, something, hopefully healthy, right? Don't give them junk. Not good for them. So you want to involve yourself in that in a way that is not going to confuse you and won't prevent you from doing what you were sent here to do, which is serve the Eibishter. Since he knows well that the Iker is the Eibishter that's giving him his chayes. Aval kol amumutzayim, but all of these intermediaries, the metaphysical and physical intermediaries, so those are the metaphysical intermediaries. And also the physical things, shebehem nislav shashpa, that this all of this godly bounty is being clothed in the physical things. It's clothed in the food. By like going to work and making a living, drawing down the elokus that way. So it's clothed in first the money that you make for a living, which ultimately is translated into all of those physical things that you need. And in the bread that he eats. And what's vitalizing the bread that he eats? Shem Havaya. So how do you and I get energy from Shem Havaya? We don't get it straight. We get it through a piece of bread. Einem klum mitzad atzmam, but those things are not klum mitzad atzmam. They are not the ikr. They're simply the intermediaries for a connection to, for the godly energy. Shaloi heim ikr makar chayusa. They are not the source of his chayus, and he knows that. So then, what is the source of his chayus? Ki ima ikr hu har eluki, hu machayusay. The godly light. That's what's giving him true vitality. Therefore, what? Well, let's see. Kol inyanim magashmim, and all of the inyanim v'devar magashmim, and all of these physical realities and physical things, objects. Heim rak mimutzayim. They're only intermediaries. V'kelim. They're vessels. Shebehem mislavish eluki. That the godly light is clothed in them in order to give me what I need. It's coming from the Eibishter. B'chtei shiyava chayes b'bechinas chayes gashmi lefi erkai. So that he'll get the physical vitality that he needs. Therefore, it's not reasonable that these things should bother him. And stop him from learning Torah and davening properly. Because he doesn't relate to them as the ikr at all. It's like a person who spends so much time looking for just the right axe, he doesn't build the house. No, this isn't the right one, and this isn't the right one. And he goes to every single hardware store and he feels the axe, and he's so busy with the axe. He's got his whole head in the axe. He actually never buys an axe to build the house because he's just so. And once he buys the axe, he doesn't. Vey, what a beautiful axe! You know what's going to happen if I hit wood with this axe? Oi! It might get a chip and it might get dull, but I don't want that to happen to my axe. So I'm never going to chop wood with my axe. I'm going to just put my axe in a nice little cabinet and keep and look at it and watch it, and it's so beautiful, my axe. The only reason you get an axe is to build a house, so just go get an axe. Go find an axe in the hardware store, right? And it doesn't have to be gold-plated. And you get an axe and start chopping wood and realize that you're the one who's going to have to do all the work to chop the wood, and then and do what you have to do. Understand? Why are you worshiping the axe? So why do I put my whole head in what I'm going to do to make a living? I have to make a living. Why? So I can have a life. But it's really all about life. And what's life? Life is Torah and Tefillah. Life is a relationship with the Eibishter. Life is a relationship with our spouse, with our children, with our parents, with our neighbors, with our brothers, sisters, cousins. Life is a relationship with the world around us. And the big Eibishter above us, so to speak. That's life. Okay. And everything that we have comes from him. And if we have that proper understanding of things, so then we'll go about navigating it all in a rather healthy and reasonable way. And if I lose sight of that, which is easy to lose sight of in Eilam Hazeh, so then I'll end up making mistakes as to what's important and what isn't. It all sounds pretty simple. And it is actually pretty simple, except it's, to bring it down into Maisa B'Fayil is difficult. But it's less difficult if there's clarity as to what the reality really is and I don't get blinded by the dark. Ki me'ikar elokus. He's not going to get confused if he understands what's the ikar and what's the tafel. So therefore he has to be connected to the Eibishter, and the Eibishter is Torah. And let's read it. It's important. I was going to stop here, but let's read the next 5 lines because it's important. He's also not going to be dishonest in his business. A person understands that his shefa comes from the Eibishter, so he realizes, I have to make sure that this kli is a kli that's fit for the bracha of the Eibishter. Might I be able to get more by being dishonest? Yes, that's the way the Eibishter created the world, so that being dishonest will be for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. As we said earlier, right? If by definition, if I'm honest and don't work on Shabbos, I make more, then everybody would be honest and they wouldn't work on Shabbos. That's not why you're honest, and that's not why you work on Shabbos. You're honest because you appreciate the fact that it all comes from the Eibishter. And you want to make the kli for that bracha a proper kli, a holy kli, a pure kli. Okay, not a kli full of schmutz of all of the slightly unethical little things that were done in order to make a few more kopeks. Gam lo yelech b'derech takbules be'iskei. Shetzarich la'aseh kach v'kach. He has to do such and such. V'laharbeis besek, and to spend a lot more time in his business. Ad shemenei ma'akev yisei b'shas ha'keishim yitar tefillah, such that his involvement in his business prevents him from spending time learning Torah at the best times, when he's fresh, when he's alive. Okay, he'll learn some Torah and he'll fall asleep over his Gemara every night because he's exhausted, because he spent so much time trying to make a living that he just doesn't even have time for it. All right, okay, so maybe it's better to learn a little in the morning when he's more awake. Right, some people don't function well in the morning. Okay, so that person should be awake at night. And if he's too tired at night, so then you know what? Stop work in the middle of the day and learn for an hour in the middle of the day. Oh, but I'm too tarud in my work, so I understand. So now you've figured out how making a living has stopped you from living life. Why are you letting that happen? You can't learn in the morning because you're too tired. You can't learn in the middle of the day because you're too involved in business. You can't learn at night because you're too tired. What have you done to yourself? Well, why did you did this to yourself? Why did you do this to yourself? Now there are situations where a person has to just, but we don't live in that world generally, and we're very, very fortunate and should thank the Eibishter for that. There are people who have to work, extremely hard in order just to scratch out a meager existence. Okay. So those people really have a hard time drawing down the bracha, and it's very hard for them. Okay, stay there. But some of those people you might see living around here. Just go see the shuls in Machne Yehuda. They're still there for mincha. And what are they doing? They're saying Tehillim before mincha. Or they're learning a little something. Or they have a shir or whatever. And if it's during the week, it's too hard. So then what does everybody do? So they go to the shirim on Shabbos. He should work in his business in accordance with the nature of the business and what has to happen, and also his nature. But in a way, it shouldn't stop him from davening at a proper time. And learning Torah every day. Certainly, if it's my business, so then I could probably arrange things that I could daven like a mensch and learn some Chassidus before and some nigla after, and then get to work. If it's my business, why not? V'yivtach b'Hashem, and you should have trust in the Eibishter. Hanesin lechayusa, gives him his vitality. The vitality does not come from the business; it comes from the Eibishter. The business is just the kli for it. So make the business a proper kli, and everything will work out. Sheyitin le parnasasei, that he'll give him his parnasa v'chayusa and his vitality al yedei zeh, by virtue of this business. U'kamer shekosav, like it says, ki hu hanesin lecha koyach la'aseh chayil. The Eibishter is the one that gives you the power to do what you do. So if a person has that mindset, so then he'll make it in life. Like he'll accomplish what should really be accomplished. Right? There's no guarantees bringing up children, but the children will understand. Al pi teva. The children are going to understand what's important. What's more important, what's less important to their parents. What's important is the Eibishter and the Inyanim, for Chassidim, the Eibishter, the Rebbe's Inyanim. That's what's important to their parents. Of course, their parents make a living and making sure that their kids have what their kids need is very important to the parents, and the kids know that and they appreciate that. But they see what the parents are really interested in, and they're probably going to be interested in that. And if they see that the parents are talking one thing but doing another, so they'll figure that out pretty quickly also. And if the parents think, I'll just send them off to school and they'll be fine, well, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay. I don't know how to stop this. What do? You press that?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, look at that.